Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the podcast. And today, I'm going to give my review of WWE's Saturday night's main event. Starting off the night, we got Randy Orton taking on Drew McIntyre. I thought it was a good match, man. A little bit of a grudge match here between Orton and McIntyre. Back and forth matchup between Orton and McIntyre, with McIntyre keeping the pace of the match. McIntyre then hits a back suplex on Orton off the announce table. Orton then gets up, hits a power slam on McIntyre. Orton then takes McIntyre to the outside of the ring, hits 3 back suplexes on McIntyre off the announce table, followed by Orton hitting a vintage DDT. McIntyre then quickly hits a Claymore kick on Orton for a near fall. Logan then pushes Jelly Roll ringside. Jelly Roll then pushes Logan Paul back. This has allowed Orton to hit an RKO on Drew McIntyre, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is Randy Orton. After the match, Logan Paul attacks Orton. Jelly Roll then attacks Logan Paul, but McIntyre comes out of nowhere, hits a Claymore kick, laying out Jelly Roll. Some interesting stuff there between Drew McIntyre and Jelly Roll. Moving on from that, we have Naomi. Naomi attacks Jade. Aldis then announces that it will be Jade versus Naomi, with special guest referee Bianca Belair for their matchup at Evolution. Some interesting stuff between Jade and Naomi. Moving on from that, we have a U.S. Championship matchup. It is Solo Sikoa defending the U.S. title against Jimmy Uso. I thought it was a good match. Back and forth matchup between Jimmy and Solo, with Jimmy keeping the pace of the match. Tolo Tonga's ringside. He gets involved by attacking Jimmy Uso, with the referee being distracted. Jimmy then gets up, hits a German suplex off the apron on Solo Sikoa. Jimmy Uso then hits an Uso splash for a near fall at the top rope, followed by Jimmy hitting a Whisper in the Wind to the outside, taking out the MFTs. Jimmy Uso then attacks Tolo Tonga, followed by Solo Sikoa hitting a roll-up on Jimmy, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match and still U.S. champion is Solo Sikoa. After the match, Tolo Tonga and the NFTs attack Jimmy Uso. Solo then hits a Samoan spike on Jimmy Uso, but Jacob Fatu is here. He comes out to the ring. Fatu attacks the MFTs. Tolo Tonga then hits a big boot on Fatu, but it does nothing to Fatu. Fatu gets up and attacks Tolo Tonga. Looks like Jacob Fatu has some unfinished business with Solo Sikoa and the MFTs. Moving on from that, we got LA Knight taking on Seth Rollins. I thought it was a really good match. Back and forth matchup between Knight and Rollins, with Knight keeping the pace of the match. Rollins hits a frog splash off the top rope on Knight for a near fall, followed by Knight hitting an elbow drop off the top rope for a near fall on Rollins. Rollins then hits a buckle bomb on LA Knight, followed by Rollins hitting a springboard senton. Looks like Rollins' legs kind of folded underneath of him. But Rollins then hits a springboard moonsault. He catches himself, but he looks like he has injured his leg or knee. Ringside doctor checks on Rollins as well as Paul Heyman. Looks like Rollins is seriously injured, but Knight quickly capitalizes on this by quickly hitting a BFT on Rollins, pins for the 3, and your winner of the match is LA Knight. Hats off to LA Knight for getting the win in this matchup. Moving on from that, we go into our next match of the night. It's actually the main event of Saturday night's main event. It is Gunther defending the World Heavyweight title against the legend himself, Goldberg. The match itself was a good match, man. It was a back-and-forth matchup between Gunther and Goldberg, with Goldberg keeping the pace of the match. Gunther was landing chops on Goldberg, had no effect whatsoever. Goldberg then goes for a spear on Gunther on the outside, but he misses Gunther and ends up going through the barricade ringside. Gunther and Goldberg then both exchange, but Goldberg goes for a spear, but missed and took out the referee. Gunther then takes off the leg brace that was on Goldberg's leg. Gunther is parading around with the leg brace. Gunther then goes over to Goldberg's son. He pushes Goldberg's son. Goldberg then hits a spear out of nowhere, followed by a jackhammer on Gunther for a near fall. Gunther then applies a sleeper hold on Goldberg. Referee sounds for the bell. And your winner of the match and still World Heavyweight Champion is Gunther. After the match, Goldberg tries to give a retirement speech, but NBC cuts the retirement speech short. A couple of things I'm going to talk about when it pertains to Saturday night's main event before I get the hell up out of here, man. Number one, obviously the main vocal point is Seth Rollins. Now, if you guys didn't watch the match, or you guys are going to watch the match, I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but what I will say is, for those out there saying that the whole Rollins injury is a work, that is complete and utter bullshit. Rollins is severely hurt. It was also rumored that he was at Evolution backstage walking around in a boot and in crutches. So Rollins is definitely injured. He could be out from 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 months with this leg injury. It could be from his leg, possible knee injury. This is also an injury that he has sustained beforehand years ago when he I believe he ended up hurting his knee somehow when he was trying to do a power bomb on Kane, and his legs literally just gave out underneath of him. So, and he was out for a little bit of time when he had that injury. So it looks like he might have re-injured that pre-existing injury. Hopefully he has a speedy recovery. But when you look back at the match that he had with LA Knight at Saturday Night's Main Event, I think it was the senton over the ropes that he landed on LA Knight. And if you look at his legs, Rollins' legs, it was like his legs kind of folded underneath of him. But he quickly got up, shot of adrenaline, then hit a springboard moonsault. Knight ends up rolling out of the way. Rollins catches himself, and he lands on his legs. But then all of a sudden, he literally just drops to the ground. He crawls over to the corner where Paul Heyman is, telling Heyman pretty much that he's injured. Ringside doctor ends up checking on Rollins. Rollins is telling him that he wants to finish the match, and then LA Knight quickly hits a BFT out of nowhere on Rollins, pins for the 3. So clearly you can tell that Rollins wasn't healthy enough to continue the match the way he wanted. So clearly there was an injury going on with Seth Rollins. I know a lot of people were saying, oh, this is some way where Rollins is going to cash in the middle of the late at night in the main event against Goldberg and Gunther. That was not the case whatsoever. I'm hoping the best for Rollins. I mean, this really does put a damper on a lot of shit for Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman because, I mean, they were coming out the gate red hot with this faction with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins himself. I don't know what happens now. I know some people are saying that Rollins might relinquish the Money in the Bank contract. I mean, the guy has an entire calendar year to, cash in that Money in the Bank. So I'd be very shocked if Rollins vacates the Money in the Bank briefcase. But it's going to be very telling to see what happens with Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman moving forward without Seth Rollins around on Monday Night Raw for probably 4 to 6, maybe if not 4 to 8 months until he's back healthy again and he's, not injured anymore. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery and we see Seth Rollins back on television sooner than later. Hopefully it's not a big-time substantial injury. But without Rollins, it does have a lot of questions up in the air as far as where's the direction that Paul Heyman, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed are going to be going moving forward without the likes of Seth Rollins. Obviously, the main event, Goldberg and Gunther. This was Goldberg's last match, his retirement match, live from Atlanta, Georgia. Obviously, Goldberg has a lot of, ties to the Atlanta, Georgia area. Obviously, he played for the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, he wrestled under WCW, and their main corporate headquarters were, from what I understand, in Atlanta, Georgia. So obviously, Goldberg has a lot of ties to the Atlanta, Georgia area. This was his retirement match. I thought they did a great job in how they did this. I mean, the fact that they had some, celebrities and legends walking him out to the ring. They had the one guy that was there during his WCW tenure knocking on the door, getting Goldberg ready for his matches. You also had Goldberg's son there waiting for Goldberg to walk out through the door. You also had Chuck Zito was also a part of this. You also had Josh Barnett, who's really close friends with Goldberg. He was a part of this matchup as well as far as walking Goldberg out to the ring. I thought it was a great moment. You also had Ernest the Cat Miller as well, another WCW alumni with Goldberg walking him out to the ring. So I thought that nostalgia-wise, it was great. I think it was awesome to see. I'll say this too, and I'm going to go on a limb and say this. I think this was the best Goldberg match we've seen in quite some time, to be honest with you. I think he really kind of held his own in this matchup. I think the jackhammer was kind of pushing it a little bit. I mean, if you look at the jackhammer that he landed on Gunther during this main event match on Saturday night's main event, it was almost as if Goldberg kind of landed on his head. It was almost a jackhammer into a brain buster. But I didn't expect a lot from Goldberg in this matchup. I mean, there was already rumors and speculation that he had an injured shoulder. He had a bum leg. So I was even surprised that he was able to lift Gunther up for a jackhammer. With that being said, Goldberg, a lot of people shit on Goldberg. I mean, obviously, if you look back at the situation between Goldberg and Bret Hart, and the fact that Bret has said that Goldberg ultimately ended Bret Hart's career. I mean, if you look back at the match, yeah, I can understand a lot of people being pissed off about that. And some of the other matches that he's had in WWE have not really ended so well. I mean, he almost injured a lot of people during some of his matches, whether it be with, I think, Undertaker was one of them over in Saudi Arabia, where it ended very badly, and it honestly pissed Undertaker off. It's one of those things where if you look back at his career, man, I mean, has he had a good career? Obviously, Goldberg's best tenure of his entire wrestling career was obviously, in WCW. He was the guy. At a time where WCW was slowly going downhill, in my mind and in my eyes, I mean, I think Goldberg debuted, I mean, it wasn't 95. I think it was probably 90. If I had to guess, I could be wrong on this, but I would say maybe like 90, late 96, maybe 97 maybe, is when he made his debut for WCW. So, I mean, it wasn't right in the beginning of the tenure of the Monday Night Nitro era. I think it was like 96, 97, if not maybe 98, but I know it was before 2000, and, this was a time at WCW where things were kind of like up and on. You know what I mean? WWE was coming back strong with the Attitude Era. Obviously, they had Stone Cold Steve Austin and DX and Taker and everybody else over there that was kind of running roughshod on WWE. And it was a ratings war. Is exactly what it was. So Eric Bischoff and the powers that be over in WCW needed somebody that could try to have somebody that could be combative with WWE and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So what better way to do that than have Goldberg? They brought this guy in, and he was on this undefeated streak. He was just beating every single person that they put in front of him, and they made him like pretty much a powerhouse overnight, a wrestling sensation overnight. So obviously his better days were obviously in WCW, but his WWE run wasn't that great. Even when he first came on the WWE, once WCW was gone, it wasn't like he had the greatest run. I mean, obviously it looked like he didn't even want to be there. I remember the match he had with Lesnar at WrestleMania. Obviously some of the matches he had with like Triple H and shit like that, and the beginning stages of Evolution. It just wasn't really a good look, and it looks like he didn't really want to be there either. So obviously his tenure in WWE was kind of back and forth at best. I think that's the best way I can put it. Is it going to be something where Goldberg, in my mind, for me personally, is it going to be something where, oh man, I'm really going to miss Goldberg? No, it's not. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of Goldberg growing up, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to take away any of the guy's accolades and what he's done in the professional wrestling business, but as a fan, was I a super fan of Goldberg or even a fan? Not really. I mean, it was Goldberg. You know what I mean? If we're looking back on the WCW days, I mean, I was a fan of Randy Savage, obviously. I was a fan of Sting. I mean, Sting was the guy, in my honest opinion, for WCW. He was, the number one guy. You got Ric Flair, you got Nash and Hall, you got Hogan, you got some other guys too that, I mean, and there's other guys at WCW too that really didn't get a whole lot of praise, bro. A lot of people just overlooked them. I mean, Glacier was all right. You look at Alex Wright, you look at Booker T obviously had a great career over in WCW, whether he was in a tag team or his singles run. Billy Kidman's underrated. Rey Mysterio really had a great career in WCW as well. He really made a name for himself working under Ted Turner. There's other guys too. Mortis, Chris Kanyon. He had a really good. I mean, I for what it's worth, Chris Canyon's best character I think he ever had was Mortis. I think Mortis was great, severely underrated character in WCW. He could have went a long way with the Mortis character, in my opinion. But they had talent. It's not. I look at it the same thing with, like, I hate saying it, it's like AEW. I mean, WCW had the talent. It was just compelling storylines, and a lot of the storylines, unfortunately for WCW, was honestly wrapped around the NWO storyline in that stable. I mean, there really wasn't, like, even the cruiserweights, man. I mean, they had a cruiserweight division that was great. Jericho, Eddie, Dean Malenko, you know what I mean, Juventud Guerrera. They had a great cruiserweight division. You know what I mean? And even tag teams weren't bad. They had Chronic. They had, Public Enemy at one time, which was crazy. Obviously the Steiners were also a big part of WCW's tag team division until Scott split off and went his own way, and Rick Steiner was kind of on his own. But they had a decent tag team division. It wasn't that bad. But a lot of people get overlooked as far as what they did in WCW, in my honest opinion. You know what I mean? And a lot of people didn't make it over to the main roster. I mean, people would say Buff Bagwell wasn't that bad either. I mean, Diamond Dallas's career in WCW that was his best run ever. And it was when he was in WCW. So, I mean, it's and I put Goldberg in that too. I don't think his WWE run was that great, to be honest with you. I mean, you can say the same thing about Diamond Dallas. I mean, when he came over into WWE, once WCW folded, I mean, he had that one predominant storyline with Taker, when he was pretty much stalking Taker and everything else like that. And that was pretty much it. It wasn't like you were getting a solid run out of Diamond Dallas when he came over to WWE. It's the same thing with some of those ECW guys. You look at when they got bought out from Vince for ECW, it wasn't like, it took a while for Rob Van Dam to get a solid run. Lance Storm had no run whatsoever. Justin Incredible, no run. Taz went from being one of the top guys of all of ECW to really not having a solid run at all in WWE. I don't think they really knew what to do with Taz. Sabu, Sabu wasn't even brought over to WWE once they were bought out. I mean, it just, not until a little bit later when they revamped ECW. Sandman wasn't on WWE television once they got bought out. You know what I mean? Raven, yeah, I mean, he was there, but it wasn't like he had, his better days were behind him. I think he had better runs in WCW than ECW than he did in WWE, to be honest with you. So, I mean, for that, and that's the thing too, I mean, without WCW, you wouldn't have the likes of a Goldberg. So, I mean, for those people out there that are shitting on WCW, we wouldn't even know who the hell Goldberg even was if it wasn't for WCW. And there's a lot of other superstars that are out there that if it wasn't for WCW, a lot of people wouldn't even bat an eye on who they were. I mean, you look at someone like Goldberg, you look at someone like Sting, where Sting, he made a name for himself working for WCW, obviously. I mean, he was a big-time deal for them, whether it was the Surfer Sting into the Crow Sting. I mean, that was all WCW right there. And he was loyal as hell to them. I mean, you look at someone like Lex. Lex didn't even start in WWE. I mean, he got his start in wrestling when he was wrestling for NWA. You know what I mean? So, and that's obviously a property of WCW. So, and Sting, Lex wrestled for NWA, then went to WWE, and then went back to WCW. So, again, Lex Luger, as far as his in-ring career, I think his better days were in WCW and the NWA territories, to be honest with you, rather than WWE. And that just means keeping it a buck. I say the same thing with, and some are not. I mean, you look at Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. I mean, his better days were obviously in WWE than what he did in WCW. You know what I mean? Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig, could have been multi-time World Heavyweight Champion, in my honest opinion. I think he was a great Intercontinental Champion, severely underrated. But, you got to look at both sides of the fence. You know what I mean? You look at someone like Booker T. Without WCW, would Booker T be as big as we all know, all know of him now, if there wasn't for WCW? Probably not. You know what I mean? So, for those people out there that are shitting on WCW, it's kind of hard to do that, considering the fact that what WCW not only did for the business of pro wrestling, but what they did for certain individuals and certain, superstars within the wrestling business. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to give them credit where credit's due. I mean, you look at Randy Savage. I mean, WWE was pretty much putting him on the commentary table, and then WCW brought him in, and he still had some good matches still left on the table for him. So, for that, I'll always be grateful for WCW doing that. Look at Hogan. Hogan was on his way out in WWE, and they brought him into WCW, and he just, could not only, brought back the love of professional wrestling for a lot of fans, but he revamped his entire career from being the good guy and being the best heel, being the best babyface of all time, to turning into one of the best heels in all professional wrestling. I mean, NWO will forever go down in the history books of professional wrestling and what they did with Hall, Nash, and Hogan. You know what I mean? These are all former WWE guys that came into WCW and just completely changed the entire format of professional wrestling. You look at Hogan, obviously, and what he did in WWE. You look at, Nash when he was Diesel. And then, obviously, Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon, and what he did in WWE. And you bring these guys over, and they just run roughshod on WCW, and they changed the game. You know what I mean? So, for those people out there shitting on WCW, man, as a wrestling fan, it's kind of hard to do that, considering the fact of what they actually brought to the business. You can't deny him that. So, for Goldberg, I'm not going to sit here and say it's crazy that he's retiring. I think he should have retired a long time ago. But to me, his better days and what he's done in his career will always, for me, go down to what he's done in WCW. Seth Rollins, I mentioned that too. That's going to be very telling to see where they go in the direction of that stable now that Rollins is injured. So we're going to see what happens, man. What's next for LA Knight? You look at the matchup between Jimmy and Solo Sikoa for the U.S. title. All stars are aligning the fact that we might be getting a Civil War War Games matchup between the Bloodline, between Solo Sikoa and the MFTs, and Jacob Fatu's team, if he actually creates one, whether it be with him, Jimmy J, Roman, maybe Zilla Fatu. It's going to be very telling to see how this is going to play out leading into this year's War Games for the Bloodline. So it's going to be very telling to see what happens in the foreseeable future leading up to Survivor Series War Games this year. But I'm excited for it, man. And for those people that, like I said before, that don't like the Bloodline, to me, I feel like the storyline just gets better over time, man. It's like a fine wine. So for me, I'm locked in. I want to see where this goes. And I praise Jacob Fatu. I think Jacob Fatu has been one of the best acquisitions that WWE has had in a very long time. This guy's a monster. He's a beast, and he's a force to be reckoned with on the main roster. And then you bring in the possibility with someone like Zilla Fatu, who's still young in the game, still has a lot of time to learn, has a lot of potential. You bring him into the fold on the main roster, man, it's going to be very intriguing to see how that would play out with Zilla on the main roster and seeing this possible War Games matchup taking place between Team Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa and the MFTs. So it's going to be very telling to see what happens between both those teams. But with that being said, this is my review of Saturday night's main event. I hope you guys are out there staying safe. Be careful, and remember, stay classic. Peace.